Hi, everyone. We're recording on Wednesday, July 14th. I'm going to do a quick introduction of myself and then our speaker. I'm Leyla Messian. I'm a recent graduate from UCLA this past June, where I double majored in sociology and communication, looking to go into sports marketing. So I've done some part-time work with the LA Clippers, and we'll see where we go from there. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Tom Kuhn. He is currently the vice president of marketing at the PGA Tour, has a lot of experience, also worked at Procter & Gamble for 16 years and 8 months, where he was a senior brand manager, and then slowly moved up to the senior brand manager of Global VIX, and currently is at the PGA Tour, where he has been moved up a lot. And it goes to show that hard work does pay off, and it really does matter what company you're working at and how that company culture is and if you vibe with it. So I'm going to hand it over to Tom. I will let you do a quick summary of your education. You did get your MBA, so would love to hear about that, and then your past experiences and how you got to where you are today.
Oh, thank you. And hello, everyone. It's nice to be speaking to you. I think the quick summary of my education and career path is that I started originally getting my mechanical engineering degree. At the time, I hoped to design cars when I originally got started. By the time I finished my engineering degree, and I have the highest respect for everyone out there as engineers, but I kind of understood that you can become very specialized in a technical area and do the same thing for a long period of time. And personally, I'm energized by change and new challenges. So when I was coming out with my engineering degree, I started to look at getting my MBA, which would enable me to work in engineering management jobs and start managing teams of people, which people always bring variety and change, right, to any career. So that was appealing to me. And then as I was getting my MBA, I needed to make some extra money. So I got a part-time job doing information technology work for a financial consulting firm. And I really liked the IT work because it changes so quickly, as we all know, right? Technology is constantly changing. And being someone who likes change, I found that really interesting. So when I came out of my MBA program, I interviewed for both engineering management jobs and information technology jobs. And I ended up choosing IT as my initial career path. Started working for Procter & Gamble in IT in Cincinnati, Ohio. And after doing that for several years, internally within the company, I had a mentor who recruited me to go over to their brand marketing side of the business. So she had worked with me for several years and thought I'd be really great from a marketing standpoint in leading that. So that's how I switched to, I did a career functional switch to marketing and brand management. Did that at P&G for many years, at which point the PGA Tour contacted me because they were looking for classically trained marketer, and P&G was the top of their list. And from there, I came to the PGA Tour. And at the PGA Tour, I actually started in what would be a sponsorship sales role. And then I took over their media sales business, so selling all the advertising on the tour's owned and operated properties to other companies. And then finally, 5 years ago, moved into the role I am in now, which is the Vice President of Marketing Strategy across the tour's portfolio of global brands.
Amazing. Sorry, I had to move. So I think it seems for you that adaptability is a big thing that you have picked up throughout the years in terms of just switching, I guess, from like IT into marketing. And it's like, how was that switch for you? And like, what tips do you have for people who, like, even for myself, where like I always think that like your path must be linear, you need to stay in the same industry at all times. If your end goal is this, you can't go to this. Like right now, like, yeah, I want to go into sports marketing, but I'm interning at a online cookie business. And it's like, how am I going to talk about that? Like, what does that have to do with anything? Like, for me, it's just been a fun job. I love cookies, and it's like been nice to make content and stuff for them. But it's like, I really just like wonder, am I supposed to talk about that moving forward at all? So I want to get your take on how you kind of shared your story and like what you see when you hire people as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say the short answer, you should absolutely talk about those experiences. I talk to a lot of people early in their careers that would love to get into sports or entertainment industries, right? Because professional sports, what are we doing? We're really entertaining with the sports that we produce and put on, right? So at the PGA Tour, we're entertaining with the highest form of competitive golf in the world. Um, and it's hard to get in. Admittedly, it's hard to get that first opportunity and get in, especially when you're first coming out of school without a lot of experience. Um, but the reality about the sports industry is we need lots of people that do all the things that get done at a regular company, right? We need salespeople, we need HR people, we need marketers, we need lawyers, we need you name it. We need digital people, especially now. We need a lot of people who are experts in e-commerce and social media and analytics and infrastructure and all those great things. So there's a lot of different ways into sports and entertainment industry, and the key is you need to become good at something they need, right? So, and that was essentially my path in Procter and Gamble. They're one of the best marketing companies in the world, and so the what I learned is doing marketing for them and running their businesses at P&G is that the fundamentals of running a business and doing it properly applies to any company and industry, right? Getting it right, understanding your product, understanding your customer, understanding your competitive environment, and then figuring out a strategy to succeed. That applies to any business in the world. You just have to understand those variables. So that's why the tour recruited me to come do that and apply that knowledge to a sport instead of packaged goods at P&G. But similarly, back to your question at the cookie company, I'm sure you're learning a lot of valuable skills in the digital space or social space. And certainly all major sports and entertainment brands today need to be really, really good at digital and social, right? So it's kind of reframing how you think about it and how you think about getting into the industry. Become really good at skills that these companies need, right? And use that to find your way in. And the other way to think about it too is there's other. I can obviously speak to golf the most, but it applies to all the major sports brands. Don't think of just the professional league or the professional team as your way in, right? Broaden your scope in your definition of that sport. So if you take golf, the PGA Tour by itself conducts 50 to 100 professional tournaments a year, right? All those tournaments have small tournament teams that conduct those tournaments, right? So you don't get employed by the PGA Tour out of the gate, but you can potentially get a job with a tournament team in a particular area of the country that hosts a tournament every year. And then you get into the industry, and then you start working with, you start to know people and build your network within the industry, and allows you to move, right? Similarly, you can think of all the companies that make golf equipment. Think of all the companies that make apparel and clothing that gets worn in the golf industry. Think of the TV networks and media companies that broadcast golf. Those are all other ways to get into the industry, get your foot in the door, and then you start to make connections, and who knows what opportunities that can lead to. So there's a lot of, think about the skills that the companies in the industry are going to use, and then think about all the different companies that are involved in order for the sport to operate. And those are all different ways to find opportunities.
Definitely. You made a really good point earlier in terms of just like wanting to know more about like what do they do? Like how do these companies, like there's so many different companies and elements and projects and stuff that go into making a tour. Like I live right by the Riviera Country Club in California where like they always host, and I'm like, I don't know anything about golf, but it's like I am a part of that tournament because I live right there. They're like, you can't park on the street, but we'll give you X, Y, and Z. And it's like fascinating for me to like go and see, like, I don't understand golf. I'm like, Tiger Woods, that's the guy. Like, that's all we need to know. But to be able to see like the sponsors that are there, and like they always have volunteers, and there's always people like young guys who are always out and about, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, who are you? What are you doing here? They're like, oh, I'm volunteering. Oh, I'm working for this. Oh, my uncle's this, da da da. So it's always, I think that like we should take every opportunity as an opportunity to network. because you never know what it's going to lead to. And like, there's just so many other aspects other than the team side that goes into it. I think that sponsorships is also a really big thing that a lot of people don't really tap into as much as they should. But with time, I think hopefully we will, us young ones will realize that there's so much more out there to choose from in order to like get your foot in the door. But yeah, I think networking is a big thing. Would love to get your take on how to successfully network. What can students do, or like what do the students that you remember the most, what have they done for you to remember them and have them stand out?
Well, I think a lot of the sports leagues and teams have summer internships, which I know all the colleges and universities strongly encourage people to get involved in those. And those are highly competitive, I know, and hard to get just because all the leagues get so many applicants. So if you can do that, obviously that's a great way in. If you're unable to attain one of those, that doesn't mean you should give up. You just gave a great example. Once again, if I just take the PGA Tour as example, we'll conduct just on our main tour, the PGA Tour, because we have 6 tours globally that we operate. We'll do 40 tournaments a year in the United States. Every single one of those tournaments needs hundreds of volunteers in order to successfully put that tournament on and conduct that event. We want young people to get, our volunteer base is getting older, right? They're aging, because a lot of times you'll get retired people who have the time to go volunteer, right? We'd love to get more younger people involved, and that's a great way to get in. You can show off your leadership skills and leading up a portion of the tournament and volunteering. You can meet people, you can get close. So that's another great way to look at it. And then just start to follow on LinkedIn and other online avenues. Really start to pay attention and read articles about the industry. Start to follow. There's a lot of sports. There's a lot of industries such as the Sports Business Journal and other news sources that are specifically focused on the business of sports. So start to get those email newsletters. Start to read up on the industry. A lot of them will list job opportunities as they become available. So it's really about putting in time to do research and understand what careers and jobs and opportunities are needed in the sports, and start to keep track of what's developing in those businesses.
That's a really good point. I'm gonna do a plug for hashtag sports. I just finished my internship with them, and we also sent out a newsletter that it's business focused as well and has a lot of job opportunities that I used to select. So check that out. But going back to your point about just like understanding like what the league or team or the industry needs, and it's like, how do you kind of, I guess, adapt to that and take on that new skill? Like you were saying that you love change, but it's like, how does one adapt to that change so quickly? Because every day there's something new, whether it's new technology or a new way of doing something. How do you change, but like still stay like authentic to yourself and like your company as well?
Well, that's a harder question to answer, right? Because everyone's energized differently. Personally, I like learning, right? So I like learning new stuff. So that's why I like change, right? Because inevitably, if things change, you have something new to learn, some new challenge to go figure out. And personally, I get energy from that. I think not everyone's like that, but I think your generation has a big advantage, because your entire life, technology has been changing so fast that I think your generation is naturally good at being flexible, adapting. New technology comes out, great, I'm going to adapt it and figure out how to use it. You can usually do it a lot faster than my generation can. And some of my generation who are old enough to have been a professional when things didn't change with nearly the same speed may not like to change, and they may struggle more, right? So but I think your generation is naturally skilled at just adapting to change, adapting to new technology, figuring out quickly how to use it, and that really helps. So I think in terms of the part of your question about how do you be authentic to your true self, it's figure out what you like to do and what you enjoy doing, and then pursue it. Now, the people I mentor and coach, there's an old cliche or saying out there, it's like, find a job you love, and then you never have to work a day in your life. I don't think that one's totally true. I think that's a bit of a euphemism. I think every job has its positives and negatives. I think what I encourage everyone to do is figure out what's most important to you, whether it's the type of work you do, who you work with, where you work, the industry you work in. You know, figure out what's of highest interest and passion to you, and then find the job that has the most positives of all those things that you like to do with the least amount of negatives, you know, and skew it you skew it into the positive column as much as you can, you're going to enjoy your career. And what I've seen consistently over my career and all the different things I've done, when you are able to match people up with the things they're passionate about, so give them a work in a career where they're able to work on the things they're most excited about working on, that's when you get the best results.
I think that sense of passion is really big, that a lot of people, they want to follow, but it's also that like income. I think we want money and passion, and unfortunately that's the reality of it. And it's sometimes a lot of that passion doesn't make money. So it's like, how do you incorporate that? But again, the idea of change, there's like so many new positions that come up. Like everyone's always asking me, like, what do you want to be? Like, what's your dream job? And I'm like, I don't even know half the roles and titles exist. Like, I don't know what they are. Like, I see all these random titles. They're like, yeah, I ask people, I'm like, what does your title mean? They're like, I don't even know. Like, it's just there. And they gave it to me and I'm just running with it. It's new. Like, it really just means X, Y, and Z, but they like make it into some like fancy schmancy thing. So I think us young ones I think the best way to learn is really just like being thrown into something. And then like during that, you kind of just like realize like, okay, like this also exists and this department exists and we work with them for X, Y, and Z. And like, this is how it all works. I think when you put all the puzzle pieces together, then you really discover like what's out there. My next question for you is, I guess you kind of said, you talked about it a little bit, but like as a leader, how do you kind of work with your team to work towards change and like the unexpected? Curious to see how you guys adapted with COVID and with no in-person tours or tournaments or anything.
Well, yeah, that's a big question. So from a leadership style or leadership standpoint, I think it's really back to what we were just talking about. It's really incumbent on every leader, I think, to get to know the people on their team and in their organization, and know them, like really know them at a genuine level, so you understand what's going on in their life, what's most important to them, what do they care most about, and then think about how you can align them, you know, allow them to succeed, whether it's a career path, the type of projects they are working on, and it's not always perfect. It doesn't line up perfectly, but how can you take the work that you need to get done and align it with your team in terms of you're letting everyone kind of work on stuff that either gives them the career path they're really excited about, gives them the type of work and projects they're really excited about. You're going to get the best results, and you kind of align as you go. When it comes to COVID and how the PGA Tour dealt with it, that was a huge challenge for us. So we shut down our season the same day the NBA did. It's like the world last March when the sports world all grinded to a halt. And we were in the middle of our biggest and most important tournament of the year, the Players' Championship. And it was a huge shift, as it was for everyone. And we suspended our season for 2 months. And during that 2 months, we literally had to reinvent. I can speak to the marketing side of it, obviously, but we had to reinvent how we did marketing. Because 42 weeks of the year, we have a 4-day live tournament going on, and that kind of drives our business and our content and our entertainment, etc. And we went from that to 2 months with no tournaments at all. And no one was clear with how it was going, when it was going to end. So that we had to really think, how do we keep our fans engaged and help them through this time of crisis, right? We had to think about that. And we also had to think about what should we be doing? What can we do for the greater good with the resources we have available? And then how do we change everything we're doing to market that? So we did everything from, first we did a national or global campaign from our tour players to their fans, saying how much we miss them and hang in there during this period. Then we shifted to producing useful content. So we made archives of all of our past events available online for people to watch if they were bored at home while we were all locked up at home and looking for stuff to watch. Then we created golf themed content to help parents, like with math exercises and other things included. We called it Links to Learning, to help parents do at-home homework and exercises with their kids. And then that was kind of, how do we do useful content to help everyone during quarantine? Then we shifted to, how do we make a meaningful difference? So we created two made for TV matches, charitable matches to raise funds for COVID. There was tailor-made driving relief, and then there was the match that we did last. The match was with Tiger and Phil and Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. We did last spring. That was when our season was suspended, and through those two events, we raised over $25 million for COVID relief through donations. And then all of those things that I just named, we weren't planning to do and had never done before, right? But in those 2 months we were suspended, we figured out how to do all that while we were all working from home and couldn't be in the office together. And that's an example of agility and flexibility, right? And when something unexpected happens, you have to be able to figure out, okay, here's the situation, here's the highest priorities, the things we need to worry about, and then how can we get it done, and who has the skills needed to help us do that. And then we were one of the first sports to return to active competition in June. And I can't take credit for it, but there's a whole huge department at the tour related to health and safety that worked very closely with the government, the World Health Organization, et cetera, to figure out how can we bring our competitive tournaments back in a safe way. Because there's, even without fans, and we came back without fans initially, but even without fans on site, there's still a couple hundred people required to safely conduct a tournament, right? There's over 100 tour pros alone in the competitive field, and they all have a caddy. So then you're up to 200 to 300 people, and then there's all the operational people required to conduct the event and do a TV broadcast. So that wasn't easy. We were one of the first sports back, and we're very proud of that. And now we're kind of back to full strength, allowing fans again. So we're very excited.
I'm excited, and I don't even understand golf. But congrats. That's like a really big one, I think. I think a lot of companies and sports teams that like having to adapt really just like showed, like their creative team just got creative, like their juices were flowing. And it's like, I think it was a great opportunity for a lot of entities just to show off who they are in a different way that like their consumers and fans aren't used to keep them still entertained within the pandemic without having anything going on. I mean, I was bored without basketball for sure, but it's like now you realize how much content is based on the actual sport itself. And it's like, how do you fill that empty space? It's like a blank paper. It's like, okay, we filled up a quarter. Now the rest, like, how do we do that? And I think that you guys did a great job of that. And on that note, just any last tips, advice for your younger self, for us, things that you wish you had done to get your start within the sports industry, or just anything in general at all for us graduates and undergrads?
Yeah, I would say, well, first of all, just to be clear, I got lucky, right? Like my whole career, I never thought, I started with a mechanical engineering degree. If you had met my younger self and said, someday you're going to be doing marketing for the PGA Tour, I would have told them that sounds awesome, but you're crazy. I don't see how that's ever going to happen, right? And I got lucky later in my career, when I had been a professional in the working world for 17 years. They found me because I had gotten really good at a skill they needed, right? So for me, it was kind of very good fortune on my part to get in. If I had set out as my younger self, and I knew already that kind of that's where my passions lie, and that's the industry I want to work in, I think that's great, because I would have gotten in even a younger age, which would have been awesome. I'm thrilled to be here, and I really enjoy my position and my role. I would have had a great time if I'd gotten in even younger too, and done a lot of good work. So I think the starting point is having some target industries is a great start as people come out of school. And then it's really investing the time to learn what who are the companies that are part of that industry and what's really important to them, what kind of skills do they need, what kind of jobs and careers they have, right? Doing that homework to really understand that can really inform your strategy. And even if you can't get in initially, that, don't give up is my main message, right? Go be good. Like, social media is critically important for every single brand in sports and entertainment, right? So if that's something you're passionate about and you can't get a job in sports and entertainment right out of the gate, get a job with another company like an online cookie company and get really good at social media, right? Which could open doors and give you the resume that helps you get into a sports and entertainment brand down the line. And then I'd say whatever company you're at, the two things that have worked very well in my career is, one, when there's a big challenge or issue the company's trying to tackle and you have an opportunity to raise your hand and be part of the team that goes and tries to tackle it, do that, right? Don't pass up on those opportunities. And the other thing that's always worked well for me is if whatever company or industry you're in, if the executives or upper level managers of that company come to you and ask you to do something like, hey, we have this challenge or issue, we think you'd be able to help us with it, we want you to go work on it, even if that's not kind of your predetermined plan for your career or what you wanted to do there, always take those opportunities, right? Because essentially you have the higher level management in that company saying, hey, we've got a problem and we think you have the skills to fix it, we'd like you to take it, to help us here. And then if you deliver, it's always going to be very good for your career. So those are those two things that I would keep in mind.
So being persistent, knowing that no one's path is linear, we always zigzag to get to that end point, and just always be willing to learn and say yes if your bandwidth allows it. I think that's the little cherry on the top.
Yep.
That we need to add in. But on that, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with all of us, Tom. Really appreciate it. Lots of good gems, guys. So definitely watch us on slow-mo, pause, stop, go back, take notes. And thank you again from all of us with Ron, I guess.
Yep, you're welcome. I enjoyed the conversation. Good luck to everybody.
Thank you. Hope you have a great rest of your week and hope to stay in touch with you.
Yep, that'd be great.
Thank
you. Take care.
You too. Bye.